TradeLine Series Masterclass Part 5, we are going to be covering some strategies on how you can properly leverage your trade lines and start to get some funding. We're going to be talking about credit stacking. So what credit stacking is simply filling out multiple credit applications at the same time and making sure that those applications will all pull from the same credit bureau. So if you're going to be filling out 4 or 5 applications that pull from TransUnion, you fill out all of those applications on a different browser window from your computer. Better if you use a computer. And credit stacking, people like to overcomplicate it, and that's why they end up paying people for funding. It's really simple. You select 3 to 5 banks that pull from the same credit bureau. You're not going to use banks like Capital One because they pull from all 3 credit bureaus. And now Discover is going to be a little questionable as well because they are merging with Capital One. Another merger that's happening this year is DCU and First Tech. So as we all know, DCU's Equifax Bank, First Tech is an Experian Bank. So we'll see what the future holds there, but for now, I would just steer clear of any mergers that are taking place. So now that you've got your plan of 3 to 5 banks that pull from TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, you'll know that you have to put a plan together of, okay, I'm going to basically open up the browser windows, fill out all of the application. I might need a friend or family member to help me because we're going to need to hit the submit button all at the same time. So if I were you, I would do all of the banks that are going to use Equifax at this time frame, right? Always want to apply after 10 p.m. so you're up against the computer system. Make sure you don't have any fraud alerts. Make sure everything is fully updated on your credit report. All of your credit card balances have updated to 0, all but 1, maybe 2. You have no collections, no charge-offs. You are fully optimized for funding, my friend. And now you can get busy with credit stacking because credit stacking is the easiest and the most, I would say, low-hanging fruit when it comes to funding. Most people can get credit cards up to $50,000. Some of them have 0% interest for, 12 to 18 months. And this is where a lot of people will get their first round of funding from. A lot of banks now want to start you off with a credit card and then introduce lines of credit, loans, and things of that nature. So this is kind of the intro offer. And the great thing is a lot of credit cards offer a welcome bonus. So if you meet the requirements, and many times they're very easy, they will actually give you a welcome bonus of some sort. Very great way to make additional money and earn points for doing something that you are already going to do. Spend money. Now, if you are going through a funding sequence and say you can only use Equifax because that's the only bureau that's clean, you would want to go ahead and freeze TransUnion or Experian so that way you can ensure that the credit unions or banks are not going to take a peek at TransUnion or Experian because things can always change. Credit pulls can vary based on where you live at. Credit pulls can also vary based on the different banking product or credit product that you're applying for. For example, if you're applying with PenFed for a credit card, they're going to use Equifax. They're known as an Equifax credit union. However, if you apply for a personal loan or a line of credit with PenFed, they're actually going to be using Experian. So it can vary based on the different credit products that you're applying for. So again, the concept is to apply for all of the banks that you know to use the certain credit bureau. So for example, if you have 5 banks that pull Equifax, get all those applications submitted that same exact time where you literally just hit submit, and you are good to go. You might not get approved for all, but you also want to be mindful. You don't want to open up too many cards too quickly because that can also tank your credit score by bringing down your credit history. So I would say to someone, you don't really need more than 5 new credit accounts opened at a time, and you can do a funding sequence every 6 to 12 months. You just don't want to move too quickly. We want to focus on grade A, well-known banks and financial institutions that other banks can use as comparable credit, just like I showed you in the last video where I had my client work to get a high limit credit card with Navy Federal for $20,000, and then we were able to use that as comparable credit with Chase, who gave her $18,700. And before this time, before we started working together, her highest credit limit I think was like $3,500. She could not get approved for something higher than that. She just didn't know. Of course, we worked together. I told you what we did in the previous video. If you haven't watched the other previous videos in the TRADELINES Masterclass, I left a link below. Watch them all. Great information, and I also will have this slideshow available for purchase. You can also access all of this information plus so much more inside of the credit community. Now, let's focus on real banks. Not a bunch of fintech companies. We want to focus on well-known financial institutions for a number of different reasons. Because number one, they hold more weight. Number two, a lot of banks are in competition with each other. So if you are looking at a credit profile and they see that Chase gave you $20,000, they're not going to have a problem giving you $20,000 either. It's called comparable credit. You have to have comparable credit with other well-known financial institutions for these banks to feel comfortable lending to you. But if you have a $20,000 trade line with Austin Capital, which isn't a real bank, they're not going to really take that as serious as they would if they saw it from Chase or Navy Federal or one of the other top rated credit unions or banks. We want to focus on quality trade lines, quality banks that can offer us additional credit products in the future. That's what a relationship is all about. A lot of these fintech companies, they're not going to be able to offer us squat in the future. So if you are a business owner that's looking to get business funding, building relationships with the banks that offer both personal and business credit products is going to be in your best interest, because once you get that relationship going, the opportunities are endless, especially if you have relationships with multiple banks. We are looking to build long-term success. And I know everyone's looking for a shortcut, and I wish I had one other than adding trade lines to your credit report, which in my opinion is the fastest, best hack out there right now. Because I've been doing this for several years and I don't care what anyone says. It still works, it's completely legal, and this is your way to be able to climb the ladder faster than you would have ever been able to do on your own. Quality takes longer. We all know that. But guess what? Quality is also going to withhold the storm. So if a storm comes in and tries to blow everything over, guess what? Your quality build and foundation that you set is concrete, and nothing can ruin that unless, of course, you make a late payment, right? But I'm telling you, quality is way better than doing it all of these other ways that you might hear people talking about. And to be honest with you, I could easily go and become an affiliate with all of these fintech companies and get a referral and affiliate money just like everyone else does that advertises these. But I'm not interested in doing it because I don't know if they're going to be around in a year or two. And I want my clients and my community and my viewers and subscribers to understand the real deal. Because if you knew better, you would do better. And believe me, I fell for it too. I signed up with a bunch of fintech companies not understanding the real value of it. I was listening to all of these marketers on YouTube who claimed to be credit professionals that were just selling me an affiliate link to sign up for this credit builder. Not worth it, okay? Focus on watching this entire series to learn more about trade lines, and then you can make an educated decision. Book a call with me while I still do one-on-one calls, because that could be ending soon, guys. So make sure that you get in and I can give you a one-on-one and figure out what is the best plan of action foundation for you based on your goals. If you build it, the funding will come. You know how they say on the Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. I'm telling you guys, if you build it, the funding will come. You have to just make sure that you're building a solid foundation to withhold any storm. So if for some reason some of those fintech companies go out of business and they're no longer on your credit report, you don't have to worry because you've built a solid foundation with quality banks. If you build your credit profile the right way, set up for success, the banks will follow suit. Instead of being stuck in this $500 credit approval range like I was for years on end until I finally realized the power of authorized user trade lines and how to truly build my credit profile up for high limit success. Some authorized users are simply no good. What we are looking for when it comes to buying an authorized user or even having a friend or family member adding us as an authorized user, 100% payment history. They can never have been late. All right. We are looking for low credit utilization, under 15% of the credit limit. All right. Now, I know sometimes life happens, right? And all of a sudden we look at this authorized user that somebody added us years ago and it's maxed out. Oh my God. What do we do then? All right. Well, you need to get removed from that card. All right. I've had a lot of people that have come to me, and while I was looking at their credit report, I said, well, this is an authorized user account and it's maxed out credit card and it's got late payments. You need to get removed. Have the card holder remove you, because just because they have a credit card doesn't mean that it's going to be the right credit card for us to be added to as an authorized user, because we're going to inherit all of that same data. So we have to make sure to monitor this. That's why it's always best to purchase things when you need it and you're serious about it, because we can't control what friends and family do. If they have an emergency, they might have to max out their card, but we don't want to inherit that debt. Now, if for some reason you don't have access to that person, they're not able to remove you, you can always dispute the account off of your credit report. But the easiest and fastest way to get this off of you is to have that person, the card holder, the owner of that credit card account, to simply remove you as an authorized user, and then you can dispute that account off of your credit report, because there's no point in having an authorized user account that's not providing a benefit. We covered this, but I just want to ensure that you guys are clear. We're looking for 100% payment history. I don't even want to see a late payment from 10 years ago. All right. That's why it's kind of best, if you are in the market to purchase an authorized user trade line or add one to kind of boost you up and give you some comparable credit, then it's sometimes best to just make the investment and buy it. And of course, I have access to some of the best trade lines on the market that are authorized user accounts, and we guarantee that they will post to your credit. Go to the link in the description. I've got my trade line list there. We've got personal trade lines. We've got business trade lines, and you can always book a call with me to discuss what options might be best for you. We're also looking for low credit usage, preferably less than 15% of their credit limit. So if the credit limit is $10,000, we're looking for someone that has a balance less than $1,500. Many of our card holders often have a balance much less than that, but sometimes they do have to use their cards so they can keep the high limits that they do have, because oftentimes if you don't use it, you lose it. So we want to ensure that everyone stays on the up and up. Cards that don't report, many of you may have heard, but the GM Financial card is no more. So I wasn't a huge fan of it. I actually have that card now. I don't know if they're going to close it or not. It's still open to this date, but Goldman Sachs is the one that underwrites the Apple credit card and the GM Financial card, which is no more. And guess what? Adding authorized users to either one of these cards, they don't report. I've tried it and they never reported. You can add authorized users to these accounts, but unfortunately, they just simply don't report. What's the risk with authorized users? Well, if a card holder adds too many authorized user accounts to their credit, they could potentially get their cards shut down. I've had this happen to myself. I've had card holders that this has happened to, and a lot of times it just stems from swapping people every 3 months and adding too many authorized user accounts. And that's just kind of the name of the game, and that's why it's so important to advise the card company, if you are going to be doing this, that you plan to help people that are at risk learn about credit or have some reason behind swapping people in and out of your cards, because they are definitely going to kind of want a heads up in that regard. Now, if for some reason you are an authorized user and the card gets shut down, then we will replace it with the next best option. Don't really have that happen too much, but it is a possibility, and some things are simply out of our control. Authorized users don't provide any value on the business side. While you can add authorized users to business credit cards, most business credit cards do not report to the personal credit. So there's not much value there unless someone's going to be adding you as a platinum card holder on their American Express. You can get the card and then you can get access to Sectarian lounges by simply having a platinum card that's in your name. American Express authorized user accounts do not report any history. So they are great for adding high limits. They are great for adding more available credit to your profile, so that way it will reduce your overall credit utilization. And they're also great for getting your information into the American Express database. When's it best to add trade lines? To be honest with you, you should be adding trade lines immediately. Not authorized users, but primary accounts like secured loans. Once your credit profile is free and clear of collections and as many derogatories as possible, even if you just have one credit bureau clean, if you can wait for the others to be clean, that's even better. But I have had some people where they're like, look, I just need to get some more credit accounts to start building, so I want to add an authorized user, which we call AUs, and that way I can use this one credit bureau that is free and clear of any derogatories, and I can apply for funding with them, so at least I can kind of get a jump start on things. Perfect. We can do that. As long as you will be able to get approved for credit after the fact, that's going to be the biggest, thing, is we want to make sure that you're going to be able to fully leverage these trade lines and then be able to apply for credit in your own name and get approved. What happens when your term is up and you get removed? Well, that's a great question that many people ask me. Our trade line terms range between 2 and 3 months. Some of our cards are for a 2-month period, meaning once you get added, that will remain as an active trade line on your credit report for 2 months or 3 months, depending on the term that you purchase. And at the end of that term, if you are not ready for the card to be removed, if the card has not been removed, you will be able to extend it. You have to let us know at least 15 days prior, and we can offer you a discount for an extension, either 2 or 3 months. Some card holders have a minimum of 3 months just because they don't want to switch people in and out too often. So depending on, we can offer you an extension, but if you decide to opt out of the extension, what is going to happen is the trade line status will be changed, and you will see that it says terminated or closed. It's still going to be on your credit report, but whenever an account goes from open to closed, sometimes that can reduce your credit score. So basically, your credit score could take a dip, but over time, as long as you manage your credit accounts, pay them on time, keep your credit usage low, your credit score will go right back up, because the goal is to have those trade lines active, apply for credit in your own name, so that way you can have some credit to build off of. And then when you go after another round of funding, you might want to add another couple trade lines at that time to kind of boost you back up and fully optimize your credit profile, so you have at least a 780 or close to a 750 credit score when applying, because nowadays a 700 credit score is just not enough. We want to make sure that we are fully optimized so that way we can get the best approvals, and we want to really shoot for that 750 to 780 range when we're applying. What happens if the authorized user account doesn't report? That's also another great question, and to be honest with you, we guarantee it. How do we guarantee it? Well, sometimes cards simply don't report and we have no control over that. But what we will do is we will verify that the card did not report by logging into your credit. What you'll need to provide us with is your Experian login credentials so we can log in, look at your credit profile, make sure that it didn't report. We will need all 3 credit bureaus on Experian so we can verify that it did not report. We would need updated credit reports as of today's date so we can ensure, hey, it's been 14, 15 days, it's been 20 days, it should have already reported. Sometimes we will need to do an address merger, and if we have done an address merger and it still hasn't reported, we will replace it with the next best option for you. So it could be a bit of a delay, but in some cases we have no control whether or not things report. In some cases, things just don't report, but that doesn't happen a lot. To be honest with you, it very rarely happens to me, and if it does happen, it's usually because a client has their credit profile locked, or they have consumer fraud alerts on their credit report or a consumer statement on their credit report. Very rarely does it happen where you just don't see the card. A lot of store cards I see don't report, like for example, like the Target card and a lot of the Synchrony cards. Sometimes those don't always report, but try to do what's called an address merge, right? And basically, but that's when you want to do an address merge. That's where you get the cardholder's address and you sign up for credit monitoring, basically signing up for a credit report using that address. So that address will be reported on your credit report, and sometimes that kickstarts things to start reporting. Here are some of the websites that you can use for an address merge. They are free in many cases, and in some cases you can pay like $1 for the 7-day trial, but the whole goal here is just to sign up for credit monitoring using your name, your information. The only thing different is going to be, instead of using your home address, you're going to use the cardholder's address. So that way that address will populate, and a lot of times, like I said, that'll get it to start reporting. Another reason why cards don't report is you did not get added to the account in time for the statement date. So it would need to go through another cycle for it to report. So generally it will report the following month. In order for you to make the current cycle, meaning if you wanted to report as soon as possible, you would need to get added to a card at least 5 business days prior to the end of the billing cycle, because once that billing cycle ends, that's it. That whatever data is on that account at that time, that's the data that will get reported to the credit bureau. Address mergers are generally needed for cards like Wells Fargo. I had a client reach out to me, or not really a client, but more of like an associate reach out to me that does trade lines as well. And she was saying, hey, my trade line never reported to my client's credit profile. And it just so happened that it was a Wells Fargo card. So you have to do the address merge. You can also update your address to the cardholder's address right inside of your Experian account. Underneath the account profile, you'll generally have like your name, your address. Just change the address to the cardholder's address, and a lot of times once that cycles through in about 48 hours, then you'll start seeing the card populate as long as it made the cutoff period for that particular cycle. This is what your credit data should look like, guys. Before you get a trade line, you want to make sure you don't have any derogatories and you're pretty much fully optimized for funding funding, the only thing that you're waiting for is the cherry on top. And those are the trade lines. The trade lines are the cherry on top, the authorized user trade lines, the AUs, right? That's what's going to give us that like power boost. And this is also going to add the high limit comparable credit that we need. So when we go after funding for our own selves, we can get higher limits, just better approvals instead of $1,500, $2,500 approvals. And this is exactly the data points that are going to give you that 750 to 800 credit score. 100% on-time payments, meaning you do not have any late payments. Credit card usage under 5% preferably, if not under 15%, no more than 30%. No derogatories. Credit age should be at least 5 years. That's another reason why a lot of people like authorized user accounts, because you can actually add age, which is 15% of your credit score, and that helps out significantly. In fact, where you're going to see the most benefit by adding authorized users is adding age, adding authorized user accounts that have 15 years of history, 20 years of history. Especially if you're a little bit older, you want to find cards that have a significant amount of history, 15, 20 years, 30 years. We have cards that are aged up to 30 years and sometimes even more than that. And that's where you're going to get the most impact for your purchase. And again, you might see prices that are cheaper elsewhere, but I'm telling you guys right now, I've had so many people that went elsewhere, and I showed you in some of the previous videos what happened. You know, they found a great deal. It was like $3.95. Tradeline never posted, and they took their money. So a lot of times, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And also, if you want a shorter term, or if you have a certain budget, reach out. Sometimes we have deals, but you're certainly not going to get the best of the best with a shoestring budget. You know, you have to understand your budget is going to tell you a lot. It's going to basically tell you how much history you can get, how much limits. You know, you can easily get a credit card with American Express for $3.95. We've got those all day. But if you want, you know, a 30-year age trade line for $100,000, like, come on, you have to kind of think, is that going to be the best for you? A lot of times, if you don't even have a $20,000 credit card, there's no point in adding, you know, a $100,000 AU, because you're not going to get $100,000. It's just, you're not quite there yet, because credit is all about progression, right? You go from 20 to 50, and, you know, you progress up from there. You know, you're not going to just go from 0 to 100. So this is what an optimized credit profile would look like. No more than 4 inquiries, 43 total accounts. Some are open, some are closed, but nice mixture of accounts showing lenders that, hey, I can manage all types of credit accounts and can be trusted. These are the baseline credit data points that you really need to focus on. You want to have at least a 700 or better credit score. I told you guys nowadays, here in 2025, 2026, a 700 is just not as good as it used to be. It used to be great. Like if you had a 700, it's like, oh my God, they're great, right? But now the stakes are a little bit higher. People are realizing that, you know, people with a 750 or a 780 credit score are less risk, and they're the ones that are getting the best approvals. So it's important for you to understand, if you want to be the best of the best, your credit score needs to match that. All right. So these are the data points, you know, at least $2,000 in credit limits, 3 or more credit cards with real banks, not, you know, fintech companies that no one cares about, like Tomo and, you know, what's the other one? Pedal. We're talking about real financial institutions, credit unions or national banks or regional banks, right? Credit history at least 3 years old, credit utilization under 15%, preferably under 10%, and most of your cards at a 0 balance. I don't know who the hell told you guys to keep a balance on all your credit cards, but they freaking lied to you. So that's why I tell you guys, you have to retrain your brain, forget what you thought you knew, because I'm giving you the information that you need to know, not what you want to hear. I'm not trying to sell you anything. What I'm here to do is educate you so you can make better decisions. We're here for long-term long-term success. And if you knew better, you would do better, my friends. Let's get to it. All right. Less than 4 inquiries in the last 12 months, no collections, no charge-offs. And of course, just making sure that you've checked off all these boxes. All right. Don't try to go to the bank when you have a collection on your credit profile, regardless if it's $2,000 or $20. A collection can get you denied. You want to make sure everything has fully updated on your credit report, meaning if you pull a fresh credit report and you're seeing data that is negative, or you're like, man, that hasn't updated yet, obviously the bank is going to see the same data. So you need to fully wait and make sure that you're fully optimized for funding. All right. And again, I work one-on-one with people to help them get funding ready and make sure that they are fully optimized. And sometimes that can take time because there's things that we have to work through. There's changes that need to be made. They need to add authorized user accounts to add higher comparable credit if they want high limit credit cards. So the personal credit goal is to not close any credit cards. All right. Old credit cards, I don't care if you hate the bank or not. I hate Capital One, but I'm not going to close it. I'm going to use them like they use me, but I'm going to keep it at a zero balance. I'm going to keep the card locked. I'm going to put it in a drawer, and I'm going to continue to let it report an on-time payment or an account in good standing every single month so I can have that feed my algorithm for my FICO score. All right. That's what it's all about. Having so much positive data and long-standing history. That's what it's all about, guys. So our personal goal in order for us to fully optimize is to have 6 to 10 credit cards in our name. Okay. 5 to 6 or more that are open. Okay. I wouldn't go more than 20 credit cards on our personal credit because you could have too much credit, right? And you don't want to open up all these credit cards and then close them. I mean, there's got to be some strategy behind it. Like if you're going to open up all these Chase credit cards, you can do a credit limit transfer. So that way, say you get 3 credit cards and they're all $33,000 a piece. You can basically close 2 of them and you can transfer the credit limit to one card, the oldest card with the most history. So that one card has a high credit limit and you can close the other 2. So you can transfer all the funds to one. So that way you have one high limit credit card. That's a game changer right there. All right. Yes, you can do credit limit transfers with some banks. Chase is one of them. American Express also lets you do this sometimes. Most other banks are getting to the point where they don't do it. Capital One used to offer it. Other banks used to offer it. Now they don't, but Chase still does. And that's a real big game changer. They allow you to do credit limit transfers from personal to business and so on and so forth. So if you wanted to transfer your credit limits to your business or to your personal, there you go. All right. Installment loans. All right. You have to have both revolving accounts, which are credit cards and lines of credit. You also need to show that you can manage installment loans, right? Any sort of installment loan. You want to have between 4 and 6 installment loans on your credit profile just to show, you can manage 1 to 3 open. All right. Secured loans are an installment loan. All right. Pledge loans, same thing. Installment loan. Understanding the difference between a 700 and an 800 credit score is really just time, all right? But look how fast things can change. Up 66 points in the past 30 days, all right? From authorized user trade lines and from just being educated, all right? A 700 credit score, that's usually a 12 to 24 month streak of on-time payments. 800 is usually 24 to 48 plus months. Once you get that 5-year range, that's where you're going to start seeing the 800 credit scores come into play, but you got to get to a 700 before you get to an 800. And it's all about progression, my friends. And here's another example, getting up to a 788 credit score. This is FICO. This was just recently to April 2025. The only thing that's hurting them is the short account history. And, sometimes it just takes time. Unfortunately, that's the only factor, and they still have 5 years of history right now. So they could add more trade lines, but it's just not worth it at this point. So start building credit. Never ever get a late payment. Set up auto pay on all credit accounts for the minimum amount due. Make additional payments throughout the month if you want to, especially on credit cards, to keep that utilization low. And make sure that your minimum is always paid on time or before the due date, guys. We are on fire right now. Make sure to give me a huge thumbs up. Leave me a comment below. If you want to boost your credit score, visit the trade lines, book a call with me, and we can make it happen, my friends. Here's another example. 810 up 75 points in the last 3 months. And that's just making sure that their data points meet the criteria that we need, right? And of course, I always have to tell people, sometimes the budget doesn't always allow you to do things that are going to get you these type of results. So you have to be ready to invest in yourself, because honestly, with a credit score like this, your investment is going to save you more money over time than you can ever imagine. I refinanced an auto loan with Navy Federal, and I had GM Financial prior. So my interest rate was like 28%. Just this one simple transaction, by refinancing it to a credit union, I saved over $200 a month on just that payment from interest that was just being flushed down the toilet. It was like I was giving it to the bank. So think about if I'm paying this auto loan over 7 years and I'm spending an extra $200, over $200, that goes to interest, guys. So, making that investment in yourself, not everyone wants to do it, but it's necessary. You're gonna need to either pay with your time or pay with your money, or sometimes both, right? But know this, we can always correct credit utilization, but what we can't always correct is a late payment. So it's imperative that you ensure whatever credit you take out, you are prepared to pay it back on time every single month, all right? And ensure that, this is something that you can truly manage, right? Don't take on more credit than you can handle, because at the end of the day, this is not free money. This is still stuff that we have to pay back. And I see it happen all the time. People overextend themselves, take out too much funding, and next thing they know, they're in a pickle. And I can only do so much for people. So it's at your discretion. Late payments are by far the hardest thing to get corrected, especially on open accounts. So it's imperative that you pay on time and make sure that you never get a late payment, because one single late payment can drop your credit score over 100 points. We're going to get into funding in the final series of this Trade Lines Masterclass. And again, this slideshow will be available for purchase. If you want to purchase the slideshow, it's also available inside of the credit community. So I will leave the link below for you to join the credit community. But until next time, guys, make sure that you have subscribed to the channel. Leave me a huge thumbs up, and most importantly, leave me a comment. Let me know if you learned anything new, because I always want you to know better so you can do better. I'll see you next time.